That would be my luck, right? Yes.
Here you go. Okay.
Brianna. Where are you? Oh, she is. Okay. Andrea, is this everyone?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. From your team. And Shelley?
Yes, ma'am.
Listos.
Group shot out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Who's playing hail to the chief?
Hello, good morning, everyone. It is great to be back with some of my fellow AFSCME members to celebrate the signing of a bill that will expand critical services to some of our most valuable public servants. We're standing at one of Phoenix's dispatch centers where the individuals behind us get thousands of calls a day from people in need of assistance. Many of these calls can be the difference between life and death for the caller, and those on the receiving end are tasked with putting their emotions aside and acting decisively to get help where it's needed. To say the least, our 911 dispatchers have the grave responsibility of keeping our neighbors and communities safe. And the moments they are on that phone can be extremely traumatic experiences that they take home with them. However, under the current system, the people who we expect to answer our calls for help day in and day out do not qualify for the free traumatic event counseling that other first responders are entitled to. As a result, many dispatchers either take on the cost of therapy themselves or continue working under serious emotional strain. As a social worker, I can tell you this is not good for anyone involved. That's why with the signing of House Bill 2717, we are expanding access to this necessary counseling to all 911 dispatchers who take on the responsibility of keeping us safe. And ensuring dispatchers get the care they need will help us fill gaps in our workforce. With recent reports of dispatcher shortages across the state, it was clear that we needed to take action. In order to entice people to take these jobs, we must give them the tools they need to thrive outside of the workplace as well. Especially in this field, that includes the necessary healthcare services that promote emotional and mental well-being of our dispatchers. Thank you so much to Representative Hernandez for your work on getting this bill to my desk. It is a great demonstration of how we can make government better serve its people. As a proud AFSCME member, this type of legislation will continue to be a priority of mine as we move to make Arizona the best place to live, work, and raise a family. And with that, I will turn it over to AFSCME President Frank Piccoli. I can't say your last name.
Piccoli. Common spelling for everybody. Good morning. Thank you, Governor and Sister Hobbs. My name is Frank Piccoli. For over 2 decades, I've served as a fire emergency dispatcher, and now proudly as president of local AFSCME 2960. Together, with our dedicated AFSCME family, we uphold essential public services across Phoenix, Peoria, Tucson, and Pima County. Today, we gather to mark a special and unique step in our commitment to 911 fire and police dispatchers. HB 2717 extends PTSD benefits to our 911 dispatchers who are classified currently as secretaries under the Tiger-Craig Act. 911 dispatchers every day deal with issues of life and death, and these decisions bear on their souls for the rest of their career. These needed resources would help deal with the PTSD issues that are so prevalent in our group. These people are truly the first of the first responders. In the wake of the Great Recession, vital public services were slashed. They were the roles of dedicated individuals like us, the first lifeline in moments of distress for our citizens. There's an urgency now to fulfill and fill these vacancies, reinforcing the services our communities rightfully expect. That's the essence of AFSCME's initiative to staff the front lines. Public service is not employment, it's a calling, and it's a calling to create an impact in the lives of our community. My heartfelt thanks go out to Representative Melody Hernandez, AFSCME International, our allies in organized labor from fire, police, and the League of Cities and Towns. A deep appreciation for our dispatcher members, both present and past. They've courageously shared their stories and will continue to. Together, they've highlighted this pivotal concern. I've also extended commendations to Governor Katie Hobbs for her steadfast backing, again, Sister Hobbs. With the unwavering support of leaders like Representative and Sister Hernandez and Governor Hobbs, we're poised to achieve monumental strides for a workforce that in turn champions all of Arizona. And now I'm delighted to introduce our esteemed AFSCME colleague and sister and bill sponsor, Representative Melody Hernandez.
Good morning, everyone. I think it's still morning. I worked last night. I am still a very, very proud first responder myself. I've been in the field for about 10 years. I work as a paramedic. I have worked with Gilbert Fire. I have worked with Mesa Fire, Tempe Fire. I have worked with Phoenix Fire. And one thing that remains the same with all of the dispatchers that I have been able to work with across all of the Valley is the courage that they continuously inspire in every single first responder to go into all of these very scary scenes sometimes, to go in there with the knowledge that we're able to treat everyone appropriately to get them to safety. And that is the number one tool that allows us to go into these very traumatic situations again and again. And one thing that people fail to realize sometimes is that 911 dispatchers are truly the first responders. They're the ones who answer the calls to begin with. And after they work through the screaming and the anxiety and the pressure that they face from the community that they are speaking to, they are oftentimes, once they leave the call, they are left with the pain of those calls. They are left with the memories of those calls. And like many of them, I am also diagnosed with PTSD, and it is one of the most difficult diseases to heal from, to deal with on a daily basis, and it truly has been a silent killer for many of us. And so this is one of the most beautiful things that we could be doing here today. Whenever I began my conversations with every single member of the legislature talking about this, the number one thing that we realized is that legislators and 911 dispatchers had one very important thing in common, and that is that we have all been called to serve our communities in a certain manner. And so through those conversations, we ended up having police unions join us, fire unions join us. We had AFSCME join us as they represent the 911 dispatchers. We had other legislators pulling what strings that they could to make sure that this got to the finish line. This was a bipartisan, powerful effort with labor, with every possible entity that you can imagine. And as interesting as the stories about the legislature can get, there are very beautiful moments like this, and I'm very glad that you are all here to celebrate with us. And thank you to Governor Hobbs for giving us the most important signature that we could have gotten in the legislature. So thank you for your time.
We're going to do a couple of pictures,
Okay.
if you don't mind.
Yeah. Okay. Where do you want us?
Yep, you're good right there. Can you scoot back some? Like this? Yes. And then scoot the tab that way, just to your left.
Oh.
Yep. Perfect. Join her here.
Or either one.
Yeah.
doesn't- And then turn slightly toward the left. Very good, thank you.
Here we go. Thank you. Okay.
Everyone else here good with their shots?
Yes. Can we do one AFSCME picture? Can everyone follow that one?
I thought I did.
How are you?
That's all right. I didn't really have anything to do.
Make it work. Excellent. Thank you. Awesome. All right, we're gonna do some time for questions. If you
Can we
could,
start with Representative Hernandez?
yeah, 1 second. We'll get to you, Holly, don't worry.
No.
If we could say our name and outlet, and if you have a question for someone other than the governor, please say so at the top of the question. So I think Howie has a question for Representative Hernandez. You can start us off.
Good morning. Good morning. You mentioned about PTSD. Since you brought up the issue, tell me a little bit about your own issues with that.
Can everyone hear me? Okay, I can hear myself great, so I imagine you all can too. So PTSD is very hard to visualize unless you have someone in your life that you are close to that allows you to see how difficult it can be. PTSD means that you have recurring nightmares about situations that you have heard on the phone or that you have witnessed firsthand. And those recurring nightmares can oftentimes wake you up in fear and panic, and it's one of those things that makes us lose sleep quite often. It means that sometimes we get angry about things that ultimately are out of our control, because every single first responder that I work with, they always do their best to show up and represent and to serve their community. It means just that a sight, a smell, a sound can trigger that memory, and it leaves you stuck in the past. And so one thing that people, unless they're very close to me, don't get to see are what are called flashbacks. And sometimes, I want to quickly bring up the importance of having paid family and medical leave. I use that. I do not get paid to take a couple days off when I experience flashbacks. I get so stuck in the past that while I know that I'm here, I'm also completely reimagining or revisualizing what traumatized me to begin with. And so that's what makes it difficult for 911 dispatchers. I think the one thing that stays with me the most are the screams that you hear whenever, and that's what makes you feel like you're a failure. It makes you feel like you didn't do enough, and you wish that you could have. And so I think that's what wakes me up at night most often. That's what stays with you, and that's what living with PTSD is like. And my voice breaks a little bit because I don't like talking about it. It's very, very hard for many of us. And like I said, many of us sometimes take our lives. I've had a few friends take their own lives this year as a result.
Thank you.
Who's next?
I
Anyone?
have some
Does anybody have questions on this topic, or would we like to move on?
Yeah.
Okay, Howie, go for it.
Come on down, Governor.
Someone's microphone keeps falling down, so. All right.
Governor, so where do you do your grocery shopping?
Fries.
Okay. As you know, there has been an issue going on in terms of the merger of Kroger, which is the parent company of Fry's, along with Albertsons, the parent company of their company of Safeway. The Secretary of State has said he doesn't think the merger should go forward, be against the state's interest. The Attorney General's investigating. What's your thought as somebody who goes out and has to go shopping in terms of whether the number one, number two grocery store should be allowed to merge?
Well, combined, these are one of the largest employers in the state, and we're certainly watching the situation. We're concerned about potential loss of jobs and increasing prices, especially in rural areas that already have limited options for grocery stores. So we're watching the situation.
So do you think, given what you know, and again, this isn't something that just started, do you think that there should be either A, a prohibition, or B, some limit, some divestiture, for example, of stores? I mean, what's your thought at this point?
I'm not prepared to comment on that, just to say that we're watching the situation.
Stacey? I hear you have a question.
Good morning. Will you watch the GOP presidential debate tonight?
I'm busy.
What are you doing?
I'm having dinner with the West Valley mayors.
What, Trump won't show, you don't want to watch?
Okay.
Not really interested.
Sorry, Governor. I guess
Oh, yeah.
Cameras want us to. Luke, Cameron, I see you're back with us. Anybody have questions? I'm going to put you on the spot, but otherwise we're going to leave.
I might
Yeah,
have
go for it.
missed this previously, but there was some criticism before regarding your emergency declaration regarding the heat wave, some calling it delayed, pointing out, hey, Newsom was able to get one for Hurricane Hillary right on the dot. How come we waited? I was just kind of curious to see where you're currently at with that, especially with temperatures set to rise once again this weekend.
So we're continuing to watch the heat situation. Every emergency declaration in Arizona is backwards looking. It's to help provide resources for expenditures that happened during that heat emergency. And so that's why we also did an executive order, which is forward looking and helps us put resources ahead of the continued heat that we're seeing. If we need to declare another emergency, we will, but there's also really specific criteria from the weather services, which is why that emergency was only in 3 counties.
ABC 15 over here.
Yes, my name's Melanie with ABC 15. Governor Hobbs, what is your plan with ESA? I know in the past you said that you wanted to scale it back to what it was before, but what are your plans moving forward? Or some other things?
Well, we're certainly talking about this with legislators right now as we look forward to the next legislative session. It's clear that this program is unaccountable and unsustainable, and we have to do something because it has the potential to bust the budget and not just affect other education funding, but funding for transportation and all the other important services we have around the state. So we have to come up with a proposal that's going to be supported by the majority of the legislature and able to move forward from the leadership, and that's going to be really challenging to do. So we're looking at every possible option in terms of capping, income limits, whatever else we can do to make sure that this doesn't break our budget.
So you won't be going back to what you said before in terms of just scaling it back to what it was before?
We have to have a plan that can get through the legislature, and that is probably not something that's going to get through the legislature.
All right, 1 or 2 more. Luke.
Governor Hobbs, you mentioned today kind of your history as a social worker. You also called back to that a few days ago when you issued an executive order regarding substance abuse. Any more details on that? Any timeline regarding the partnership that will form to tackle substance abuse issues?
That executive order was continuing a task force that was already in existence, and it was set to expire. So that was just continuing that task force.
So, Governor, are you signed up for Fry's senior discounts like I am?
Oh, wow. I don't know what the age limit is for that, but no, I'm not.
It's 10% off the first Wednesday of every month. You should look
how
into
old
it.
do you have to be?
I think you only have to be 50.
All right, well, I'll look into that.
Do you want that to be your last question, Howie? Okay, we'll end it there then.
All right.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
He never gets invited anywhere.
You should have asked her what she thinks about the fuel points going away at QT or whatever. Oh, come on now. That's harsh. That's harsh. Thank you for rescuing me. I got here a little bit late. I didn't realize there was a door over there. I walked behind this